Welcome back to Winton Motor Raceway. Johnny Bower just catching his breath at the moment, and the rest of the field and the drivers who place behind him lighting up. In the meantime, we'll take a look at what's been happening in motorsport around the globe.
The boss said he didn't care if we turned ourselves upside down to find some global gasoline gossip. So we responded. It's been a busy couple of weeks for the two-wheelers. In Adelaide, the Swan Insurance SAFM Supercross Masters was a hit at the Wavell Showgrounds. A huge crowd saw Adelaide come alive when thousands of tonnes of soil formed another gnarly layout that stopped a couple of players right in their tracks. The final was a charged-up spectacle. 25 riders ripped into the night, and the first to get dumped was Jimmy Deacon at turn 1. American visitor Eddie Warren went to the lead. Countryman Jeff Hicks went berserk in the air, but the big thrill was Craig Dack's charge through the field. Eventually he caught Warren, but then dropped the Brian Collins Yamaha, and much to everyone's delight, remounted and on the last lap grabbed the lead, bringing the house down. Still on two wheels but across the pond, and Easter always brings us the Euro-Atlantic Challenge from the UK. Brands Hatch was the venue, and the three-day by three-heat clash led to some close battles between the US, Euro and British teams. In Heat 1, Bubba Showbird on 1, Roger Burnett on 9 and Gary Goodfellow on 34 set the pace. With Goodfellow tasting a short turn lead before he unloaded himself in a big way. Doug Pollen on 23 was then able to fly the Star-Spangled Banner for a big win. Heat 2 and Goodfellow recovered for a scrap with Burnett, but again it was the slow-starting Pollen who got by for a win and a lap record. Heat 3 broke the sequence. Goodfellow got away well as Roger Marshall crashed at the back of the pack. But after some fierce leading, Showbird served Pollen and Bubba took a win, giving the Americans the early lead in the series. To Sulawesi, Indonesia, and the 9th annual Camel Trophy, where 12 teams from 12 countries set out on the Land Rover Bash of all time. Starting from Manado at dusk, these crazies seem to seek out the worst roads in the world each year and then try to cross them. In temperatures around 30 degrees, the teams tackled 8 special stages in the balmy jungles. Much to the Turks' delight, their team of Gorel and Davici were the pace setters, and by the halfway mark were leading the Dutch, whose fingers must have fallen out of the dike when they had to cross this stage. At Rio last week, the Formula One season started much as it finished last year, with Honda engines in control, but this time on board the new MP4 McLaren. After a delayed start, Alain Prost carved up the field. Nigel Mansell had problems with the Judd-powered Williams, and Ayrton Senna was black flagged for outside assistance during his pit stop. Ferrari's Gerhard Berger tried to catch the McLaren but couldn't, and Nelson Piquet gave the Camel Lotus team a third. Mr. Prost now has 29 GP wins to his credit and looks set for another dominant year. Next weekend's British round of the European Touring Car Championship will feature Alan Grice in the new GTSR Nissan that he'll run with Wyn Percy. In the third round of the British Formula 3 Championship, Gary Brabham finished second to Martin Donnelly, his best result this year. And finally, Freddie Spencer was at Suzuka for the first round of the 500cc Championship. From where we sit, it's hard to understand why a guy like Freddie just stops racing. But as he explained to 7 Motorsports' Richard Hay, the reasons were straightforward.
It came after a long winter of hard, rigorous training schedule. And then after Australia, the testing of the new machine. And after I had the problem with my hand and wrist again, except it was worse because it was in the top of my hand. And I was having some hemorrhaging and bleeding of the tendons. That just comes from 20 years of racing and starting at such a young age. And, you know, I'd worked so hard, you know, during the winter to get in the best shape of my career, and was quicker in Australia than I'd been before. And after I got back, I consulted with the doctors and with specialists, and they said that, you know, maybe a couple of races, but for sure probably surgery, or it wouldn't get, you know, it just wouldn't get any better. And I made the decision because, you know, I told myself many years ago if I couldn't go out there and give 100% each and every race for myself and, you know, Honda, Rothmans, my sponsors, you know, then it was not fair to me or to them, or to the fans or anybody. And, you know, I've won 3 world championships and I'm proud of that. And but of course I would have liked to have gone out with a 4th one.